McDonald's has had a really tough summer this year. Their customer app and their McHire site both had massive security issues. Back in late July to early June, security researchers Carroll and Sam Curry were doing a cursory security review of McHire. McHire is McDonald's AI-powered applicant screening site that is powered by an AI chatbot called Olivia, created by the vendor Paradox AI. The Olivia AI would ask applicants for their contact information, their resume, and direct them to a personality test, and in some cases make applicants pull their hair out by misunderstanding the most basic responses. The McHire site also had an absolutely massive usage and adoption within the McDonald's franchises across the world. Over 90% of all McDonald's franchises use the site when they were trying to screen and hire applicants, and the site has somewhere over 64 million applicants saved within their systems. Anyways, when Ian and Sam were doing their security review of the McHire site originally, it had a sign-in option for Paradox AI team members. So as part of their review, they decided to try basic username and password combos to see if there were any default accounts that weren't removed. Think about stuff like username admin, password kind of stuff. Well, guess what? They discovered there was a default account using 123456 as both the username and the password, and this gave them access to an admin account for a test restaurant. Not only is having a default admin account still up in production bad, but they were using 123456 as the credentials. This is a major issue. This username and password combo is so weak, it takes seconds to try and brute force it. The password of 123456 is also so weak, most sites and password managers don't let you use it because of how obscenely bad it is. Anyways, within the test restaurant, it seems as though all the employees within the test view were Paradox AI developers, all seemingly located in Vietnam, showing us that not only do we have development outsourcing to foreign countries, but now we can outsource the vibe coding to foreign countries too. Truly, we're living in one of the greatest times. Now you can be AI rejected for a job by a vibe-coded AI bot. Anyways, after Ian and Sam had access to the internals of the site, they decided to try applying for a job on McHire. Here we can see Ian talking with Olivia, and Olivia refusing to let Ian go without getting an email. Anyways, as they were going through the application process, they were also monitoring all the API calls going through, and they discovered a simple put proxy request that would return all the info of an applicant given the lead ID parameter. After seeing this, they tried reducing the lead ID by 1, and to their surprise, it gave all the information related to another applicant, meaning the API had no access or authorization logic. It allowed accessing anyone as long as you knew the ID. This is known as an insecure direct object reference issue. From this, they realized the API allowed them to access every single chat interaction that happened on McHire. The information they could pull included things such as names, email addresses, phone numbers, addresses, the candidate's state, and every state change and form input the candidate had submitted, including stuff like their shifts and what times they prefer to work at, along with an auth token so they could also log into the consumer UI as that specific user, allowing them to leak the raw chat messages and presumably other important information as well. At this point, Ian and Sam wanted to begin their disclosure process to McDonald's and Paradox AI, the vendor that created and powered the McHire site, but there was a small hiccup. Unfortunately, there was no disclosure contacts that were publicly available, and they were forced to email random people. But don't worry, the Paradox AI security page says that they worry about security so no one else has to. I feel so much safer and better reading that now. Anyways, after they emailed an outreach to various people, eventually the right people were made aware of the issue. Naturally, McDonald's wasn't happy hearing about this and forced Paradox AI to immediately fix the two issues within the next day. With the current McHire site no longer having a Paradox AI team member login, though given how badly the site was created, it wouldn't be surprising if there's more issues lurking there for others to discover yet. Now, Paradox made a blog post and statement related to these issues, saying that the 123456 admin account hasn't been used since around 2019, so no one was able to use it to exploit and breach the McHire site data. Paradox also mentioned in their blog post that most of these applicant records didn't contain private personal information, but 5 out of the 7 records the researchers pulled up to check and verify did have PPI data. In addition, Paradox also said their penetration testing and internal security audits never managed to find any of these issues. I gotta say, after reading this statement from Paradox, I feel a lot more skeptical of the company. The API issue was literally found by just reducing the number by 1. This is an incredibly simple and quick thing to test. It seems incredibly odd that such a large company with so many developers never seem to do these basic checks. It also really makes me question if they actually have any kind of security checks and practices within the company, or if they're just full of hot air and they're saying whatever they can to try and save some face for themselves and to prevent losing any future business. Also, how do you leave an admin test account up in production for nearly 6 years? Also, the admin account doesn't seem to be the biggest issue here. Anyone that had a McHire account and had some basic tech knowledge seems to be the bigger issue here that they aren't addressing. Let's say someone with a McHire account logs in and they wanted to pull info or mess around with other applicants. There's nothing stopping them from viewing other applicants by just changing one number in a URL. Who knows what kind of mucking around could have been happening over the last 6 years on McHire due to these issues. And if all of that wasn't bad enough with their statement, in June, it was also discovered that one of their Vietnam developers of Paradox Paradox AI had their password data stolen by a malware known as Nexus Stealer. And within the password data that was stolen, there was a lot of recycled passwords for Paradox accounts that could log into firms that are customers of Paradox AI. Some of Paradox AI clients included places like Lowe's, Pepsi, and probably the most shocking, Lockheed and Martin. In regards to this issue, Paradox responded they were mandating SSO with Okta for their team since 2020, but in the password leak of this developer, it was also discovered that he had his Okta password as 2025-06. You really can't make this up. Plus, the cherry on top of all that, the developer's Atlassian and GitHub account info was in the password data as well. Given how ridiculously Paradox got rocked recently and how they basically have next to no actual security measures in place, we can probably expect a lot more breaches and issues with sites they've worked on in the not so distant future. But enough about Paradox, let's go back to McDonald's. If the McKire security issues weren't bad enough, this month of August, another security researcher found massive issues with the McDonald's app and various sites. This story starts with BobDaHacker when he discovered an infinite points exploit for the McDonald's app, allowing them to get free McDonald's food. Bob discovered that the McDonald's app didn't have any server-side checks or validation. All of the points in the McDonald's app were only client-side validated. So for anyone that doesn't know, this is literally lesson 1 of building a secure application. Never, and I mean never, trust any data the client sends. Anything the user has access to is ripe for easy editing and screwing around with. That's why servers are supposed to double check any value passed to them and verify data against what values they have on a database. It's kind of incredible that McDonald's doesn't have any security on their flagship app. At this point, I feel like I need to start a game where we all ask ourselves if a developer made this or if this was vibe coded. Anyways, after Bob discovered the issue, they tried to immediately report it to McDonald's, but this turned into a whole saga into itself. Basically, Bob managed to reach a software engineer working at McDonald's who said they were too busy to take a look at the report and fix it. For the second time in this video, I have to say, you really can't make this up. Anyways, after Bob stressed this allowed people to get free food off of McDonald's dime, it seems like that did the trick and a patch was made for the app after a little while. But the story doesn't end here. After Bob saw the security for the McDonald's app was lacking, they decided to do some more digging, which led them to investigating the McDonald's Feel Good Design Hub site. This is McDonald's central platform for their brand assets and marketing materials used by teams and agencies across 120 countries. Guess what this site was protected by? A client-side password. Yes, let me repeat that again. The site used a client-side password. For the third time in this video, you really can't make this up. A client-side password means anyone that knows how to hit F12 on their keyboard could go open up the page and find where the password logic was and just give themselves access. What is going on with McDonald's security teams? Anyways, once again, Bob was a good guy and reported this issue to McDonald's as well. This time it took roughly 3 months before they managed to implement a proper account system with different login paths for McDonald's employees and external partners. Now, everything is sunshines and rainbows, right? This time they introduced a brand new issue and exploit. Bob found that if you just change the API request from login to register using the following URL, you could attempt to sign up and get your own Design Hub account. In fact, if we look at the screenshot provided by Bob, we can see that if you call register, it even tells you the exact fields you need in order to create an account. Once Bob added the missing fields, he was able to register and get an account for himself on this new and supposedly fixed hub site. Now, if all this wasn't bad enough, it gets worse. After registering, the Feel Good Design Hub sends an email with a password in plain text. This is another incredibly bad security practice and another point against McDonald's. The user that signed up already knows their password. They don't need it sent back to them in plain text. Having the password in plain text inside an email just opens up a new attack vector for bad actors. There's no reason to do this. This also isn't a temporary password for the user that they'll change later on, which makes this whole thing just all around terrible. Once again, you really can't make this up. For proof, Bob shared an internal video from Design Hub with a confidential reminder just to show he was able to create his own account and access the internals of the site. Surely with all these hacks and security issues, we're done now, right? Nope, we still have more to go through. Bob also discovered that inside the Design Hub JavaScript code, they left the Magic Bell API key and secret just sitting there out in the open. For those of you that don't know, Magic Bell is a service that helps you send notifications on the web and on mobile. Also, an API key plus secret is the information that is needed to use the service as if you were McDonald's. Meaning if Bob was a bad guy, he could use this information to send bogus notifications and scams from the official McDonald's notification service. Not only that, but with the API key, he could also go through and list every single user within the McDonald's system. Once again, Bob reported this issue to McDonald's and they have since rotated the keys out. Whether or not they're still in the publicly viewable JavaScript on the site behind a login still isn't clear. Now, the Magic Bell API key wasn't the only service Bob discovered that had its secret info leaked directly on the McDonald's site. Turns out, Algolia indexes and data was also exposed. So again, if Bob was a bad guy, he could use this info to find all the Algolia indexes and searches for McDonald's, all of the personal information of users who made requests across various McDonald's systems, found the users' names, emails, access requests, and a ton of other stuff. Everything was basically there in the open for someone to exploit. Again, Bob is a good guy and reported this issue once again to McDonald's. But guess what? We're still not done with the exploits and bad security. Bob contacted a friend of his who worked at McDonald's to help investigate more sites and portals. Here they began searching the different systems and login portals McDonald's has for different employee levels. Bob found a site called trt.mcd.com. This was supposed to be a corporate-only site for McDonald's, but turns out any McDonald's employee could access it. Within the site, it was possible to search for any McDonald's employee globally, from a simple store manager all the way to the CEO. You could also see email addresses tied to McDonald's employee IDs, and in most cases, these were people's personal emails. And it gets worse again on the TRT site. The site also had a feature called Start Impersonation, meaning any McDonald's employee could have access to the site and impersonated another employee or collected information. Once again, thankfully, Bob was a good guy and probably reported these issues to McDonald's as well, and hopefully by now, they should have some fixes to these issues. Next, there's the Global Restaurant Standards Panel. This is a tool for franchise owners and crew members to access. And once again, the same issue as before, there's no authentication or security for any of the admin functions on the site. The panel had an API that checked your role on the platform after logging in by sending your email address to an endpoint. So what this means is anyone could update any page with this platform using the API without any cookies or special access required. Bob demonstrated this by changing the homepage to Shrek is life, Shrek is love. Truly the security hero McDonald's needed. Once again, good guy Bob reported this. Then Bob found another service called Stravito that was misconfigured. Stravito has various internal corporate documents that were misconfigured and that could be viewed by any McDonald's employee or crew member. Finally, we're on to the last issue Bob found so far, the Cosmic's bonus round. Cosmic was McDonald's experimental restaurant designed to compete with Starbucks. And once again, they had an app that let you get free drinks because there was no server-side checks. Basically, Bob was able to reuse and make requests using the same coupon multiple times. In fact, he used this exploit to warn the staff and report the issue itself. Let's add another good guy point for Bob. Now, everything is sunshines and rainbows finally, right? Nope. So it turns out after Bob found all these issues, he had an incredibly hard time reporting them all to McDonald's. He originally searched for a security.txt file on the McDonald's site. This is a common practice most sites implement. Basically, if you search for a site domain .wellknown/security.txt, you should be able to find all the info you need to safely disclose any issues to the right people inside a company. Well, as it turns out, McDonald's did add a security.txt file, but they removed it after 2 months from their site. Bob had to use the Wayback Machine to find it, and by the time he managed to find it, all of the info inside it was outdated. So to report some of the issues to McDonald's, Bob had to call McDonald's HQ and pretend he knew random security engineers. He did this by searching for the names and jobs on LinkedIn so he could trick the HQ hotline to connect with a real person that could finally hear his report and actually take action on it. He had to try this process out multiple times before he was finally able to get a hold of a real person, and that person gave Bob the actual place details he could go to and report these issues. For the last time in this video, you can't make this up. But we're still not quite done yet. Now, while Bob managed to report everything eventually to McDonald's, and while most of the vulnerabilities were presumably fixed, how McDonald's handled this is very odd. They fired Bob's friend, who works at McDonald's, due to security concerns from corporate. McDonald's still hasn't established a proper channel to report security vulnerabilities, and some of these endpoints are likely still online with a slightly different URL and possibly not fixed. With all that, we're finally done with all the hacks and breaches McDonald's has suffered this summer so far. We still have a few weeks to go, so let's not count McDonald's out just yet from another screw up. Anyways, let me know which one of these issues you think was the worst, and if you were loving the vid, do the usual like, subscribe, and share. Until next time.